Good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody to this wellness event, and I want to thank the team for setting this up. They've identified a national speaker to come in and give you guys a great talk. The last 2 years have been pretty difficult on everybody, and a lot of people have needed a lot of help, and I think that's going to continue in the near future. And we spend a lot of time talking about taking care of ourselves, and I think our speaker today is going to discuss that in detail. And so I'm going to let Dr. Pierre introduce her, but I want to welcome you on behalf of the Health Science Center. Marquis?
Thank you, Dr. Lewis, and thank you to all of you who've taken out some time to come and share with us on this afternoon. As Dr. Lewis said, we all know the importance of taking care of ourselves, but do we really? It's critical that healthcare professionals pay attention to their emotional lives in order to remain effective and to remain healthy. The effects and trauma of the care and the situations that you deal with linger on beyond your time on the job, and we all know that. It really does manifest in a number of different ways, from insomnia to difficulty concentrating, decreased energy. We know the risk of burnout in healthcare was already high before COVID-19, and the crisis really only exacerbated it. These daily traumas that you deal with, on top of the more than 1 million COVID deaths, are a real concern as an institution here at LSU Health for our faculty, staff, students, residents, and fellows. And I'd like to thank our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Institutional Wellness, Dr. Marie Vasquez Morgan, for her foresight and for her leadership in bringing speakers of this caliber to LSU Health Shreveport, and for her commitment to health and wellness through education. So our guest speaker today is Professor Sophia A. Nelson. She is an award-winning, best-selling author of 4 nonfiction books: Be the One You Need, The Woman Code, Black Woman Redefined, and E Pluribus One, Reclaiming Our Founders' Vision for a United America. And she is an award-winning journalist for her groundbreaking feature magazine articles. She's appeared on every major network, media outlet, cable news platform in the world. She is a national columnist for USA Today, Washington Post, and The Griot. Professor Nelson is a Corporate Diversity Champion Award winner and a Pulitzer Prize-nominated author in letters. You can watch Sophia on CNN as a legal and political analyst and on networks throughout the world, including BBC, Australia Broadcast Network, Canada, and Sky News in the UK. Her recently released book, Be the One You Need, 21 Life Lessons I Learned While Taking Care of Everyone But Me, was selected as People Magazine's Best Self-Help Book of 2022 in June. The book was noted as a powerful new memoir about practicing radical self-care amid trauma, COVID-19, and in these turbulent times that we live in. Please join me in welcoming to our stage Sophia A. Nelson and Dr. Marie Vasquez Morgan to set the stage for a masterclass discussion.
Wow, what an introduction, and so deserved. We are more than thrilled to have you here, Sophia. I can tell you that in reading your book, I would stop it because I would take notes, and stop it and take notes because of the life lessons that are so vital. But I don't want to take any of your time up because I know that we all are wanting to hear your life lessons. So if I could ask you, why this book and why now?
That's a great question. Can everybody hear? No. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? So why now? Why this book and why now? Well, I got COVID in February of 2020. I was very sick. It was before we all really knew what COVID was. As you remember, March of 2020 is kind of when our world got shaken in a way it had never been shaken before. And it was laying there with 104-degree temperature and being pretty sick. And I was on travel. I was in a hotel, and I was pretty sick. Luckily, I had wonderful sorority sisters who were looking out for me. A couple were doctors and nurses, so I was in good hands. But you're laying in a hotel, and you're going, is this going to be it for me? And you're thinking, no way, that can't be it. So the wheels kind of started turning. And then the why now, I think, is because we are living in a time, regardless of your political affiliations, your race, your religion, wherever you find yourself on the spectrum of life in terms of your beliefs, I think all of us know something's different about our living. I think all of us are living on that hairpin of fear. We all know we're very vulnerable now. We see it in the news every day, violence all around us. I think that COVID changed things, and if it didn't change things, you kind of missed the message. Because to me, the message that we all need now more than ever is, one, we need to be better connected as human beings, not human doings. Two, we need to take better care of ourselves, because if you're not well, how can you help anybody else to be well? And I think that third why is really getting to the root of what is your life and what is it that you want to do when you leave here, because all of us will leave here. That is a fact, undeniable. And it's that question of, what do I want to do with the time I have? And I think a lot of us are asking those questions right now.
I more than agree with you, and I think that it's been touched on already, how poor mental health has impacted everyone that's a healthcare provider. And I can tell you that we've certainly seen that on our campus. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem is compiled by the fact that there's still a stigma with mental illness and getting help for it in the medical profession, that I think that needs to stop. And so we've seen this increase in poor mental health in our students, in our faculty, in our physicians, in our staff that needs to be addressed. And I think it starts here, right? Because what I've gotten from your book also is that you have to know how valuable you are, mm-hmm. and that you can't take care of anyone else until you're taking care of yourself.
Right. And I want to say to the men in the audience, you know, a lot of times, and I've been saying this for decades, we need to invite men into the room. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times men see self-care, wellness as a woman's issue. It is not. You are a human being also. You have feelings also. You have fears also. You have needs also. And we need to encourage our male leaders, our doctors, our nurses, etc., to understand that they're a part of this discussion, because it's not a gender thing, it's a human thing. And doctors and nurses and healthcare providers, hospitals, you guys got hit the hardest over the last 2 years, because you were, particularly in a state like Louisiana, you had serious challenges here. Maybe some states didn't have the same, but Louisiana had very high COVID numbers for a very long time, and I imagine they were high here in Shreveport as well. And you guys had to come to work, you had to show up amid your own fears. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to take something home to my wife, my kids, my husband, my kids, et cetera, et cetera? And so that's real, and there is trauma. You know, to go back to your first question, why did I write this book? I read a book by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry called What Happened to You. And if you haven't picked that book up, get it on Audible. Get mine first. But if you haven't picked up this book, it's a great read. It's a deep read, but it deals with trauma. Trauma starting from the beginning of our lives, and the fact that we carry that trauma. And that the real question we ought to ask ourselves is not what's wrong with me, which is what we always ask, right, when we're talking to ourselves, like, what's wrong with me? The question is, what happened to you? And in the last 2 to 3 years, what's happened to all of us human beings is that we've suffered trauma. We've dealt with a new way of living. We had to change the way we worked. We had to change. All of a sudden, your kids weren't in school. They were all home 24/7. Your husband was home 24/7. Your family was home. That was a whole different dynamic for everybody, right? And so it changed the way we live. And I was having lunch with a senior VP of Microsoft a few weeks ago who told me women and people of color don't want to come back to the workplace. They want to stay virtual, because they've seen an increase in productivity. They feel like they don't have the office politics and the drama of gender and race and the things they have to deal with, right? And so this is going to radically change the way companies run their business. I'm talking about Fortune 10, 25, 100 companies. The Fortune 80 just signed a pledge for wellness and emotional wellness, that they are going to implement that as part of their HR and their mandatory training and how they make resources available. This thing is huge. This has changed the way we live, and I hope for the better.
I certainly hope so. I really do. And once again, we are thrilled that you are here to provide us some life lessons that you've had to help us all with resilience and for us to become better and to be able to serve others better as we get better.
Well, look, any chance a lawyer gets to lecture doctors, we enjoy it greatly. But I am the daughter of a nurse who happens to be with me today, my mom. She's retired now, 40 years as a labor and delivery nurse. And so although I'm on the other camp, the lawyer camp, I certainly learned early on to have a great deal of respect for healthcare providers, for nurses, for doctors, and what you sacrifice and what you do in the world. I think doctors are superheroes, actually. I really do. I mean, the way you save lives and what you do. And, of course, nurses are your wingman. So be nice to the nurses, okay, docs? I'm ready to get started when you are.
I've been ready. So thank you again, and let's have Sophia.
Thank you. Are we going to watch this clip here? Are we going to play this clip? So you're going to watch a clip that we thought would be helpful as we start this master class. So get your notebooks out. Get yourself ready. This isn't a lecture. This isn't a speech. I don't do those. This is about giving you some tools. But this clip was from Morning Joe, where I am a contributor, and Mika Brzezinski is one of my dearest friends, and also one of the book endorsers. And she had me on the day of the book launch to talk a little bit about what this book's about. Why don't you go?
It is, I love it. You write in part this: as I reflect on this work, I wanted to do more than just dispense advice. Instead, what I've tried to do with these life lessons is to give you a window into my life, human to human, a window that allows you to see what happens when we do not face our life traumas or our past, a window into the stumbles we all make in life and the recoveries that are still possible if we will just practice good self-care, a window that may have given you glimpses into yourself and in so doing inspired you to make better life choices and break free of the often painful bonds of toxic family ties, broken relationships, shattered dreams, or disappointments, whatever it is that holds you captive, stuck in place, or feeling like you just can't catch your breath. My challenge for you is to live. And tell me more about why you decided to write the book. It seems to me also that you're saying, like, address things, you know, so that you can really move forward honestly. A lot of people practice avoidance because it's easier.
Well, two things. First, I want to say thank you to you and Know Your Value for featuring everything I do and for having me on. That means a lot to me. Sister matters. But I think, Mika, that it was COVID for me. COVID was a wake-up call. I got COVID not once but twice, as you know, and I was very sick the first time, deathly sick the first time. I have damage to my heart. I have damage to my lungs. I don't look like it, but I've had to work on that over the last 2 years. And so it makes you consider your mortality when you're laying there and you're thinking, have I done the things I want? Am I living? The three questions: what do I want? What do I need? How am I feeling? And this isn't just a book for women. It's for men. It's for all of us. We all feel it. We're all worried. We're fearful. We're angry. There's this new eruption of violence. Our political discourse is toxic, and we all feel it. Workplace burnout, you name it. And so I am trying to give the benefit of 55 years of age now. I hate to admit that, but it's true. And I know some things to be true now, Mika, just as you do. We know because we've lived, and we want to share that because hopefully people will do better and they'll learn from our mistakes, our stumbles, and our triumphs. And they'll live better lives, deeper self-care, not superficial.
55 as well, Catty K.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with being over 50, right, Mika? None of us.
Nope.
I think that's
We all look really good by the way.
There is some new reporting that reveals that President Biden
I
is
guess it got
frustrated
cut off
by
there a
those
little
in his
bit.
own party who are continuing to
We're
doubt
gonna go to the
that
CNN
he
clip,
is
or-
running in 2024.
Why don't we
or
cut that
he
off and get
should.
to the master
The New York
class?
Times reporting
You can hit Google. You'll hit pay dirt. Don't worry about it. I wanted you to see the interview as we start with Mika Brzezinski, because I think the way she opened with an excerpt from the prologue, I believe that was, is really important. And it sets the tone for something, like I said, that I don't think we're talking about, but we want to talk about it. And I think something extraordinary has happened to all of us as human beings. And I'm going to keep using that word human being because I'm kind of tired of the boxes we put each other in. I'm kind of tired of the, you check this box, I check that box, and you're a part of this group and I'm a part of that group. When what we really should be talking about is our human experience and our human need, and the need we have, the deep need for each other and connection, right? But also that deep need to know yourself. And I'm not talking about some Zen kind of stuff here. I'm an attorney by training. I'm very pragmatic, very optimistic, but very pragmatic about life and living. And I think that as I really looked at what you do here, teach, heal, discover. That's your motto. Teach, heal, discover. That's so appropriate for what we're going to talk about today, because what this book is about and what these lessons, and I can only give you 7 of them because we don't have the time to go through all of them, but what this book is really about, it's about you. It's not about somebody else, and as you read it, you'll discover it's about you asking you the right questions. It's about you teaching yourself who you are and what you need. It's about you healing from the stuff that you don't talk about. And by the way, everybody in this room has stuff we don't talk about that we need to talk about. And then the third thing is discover. You know, one of my favorite life lessons in the book is life lesson number 4, which is wander, W-A-N-D-E-R, and wonder, W-O-N-D-E-R. When's the last time you were in awe of something? Like when you were a little kid where you were just in amazement. It brought you great joy. Joy, what a word, right? And then wonder, when's the last time you explored? You really saw some of God's great creation and just went out and connected with what's available to you in this amazing world that we live in. And I think we need to rediscover some of that just as people. So let's get started here. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, music, I did the wrong thing. Here we go. All right. Just bear with me. Okay. So what Dr. Morgan and I didn't get into, we were going to talk about the data and statistics. And Dr. Morgan had shared some information with me that I asked for, and I wanted to know what doctors and what medical students and what healthcare providers were dealing with. And some of the statistics, and I might have to get you back up here for a second, Dr. Morgan, come here for a second, and let's get you, because you're going to need to share some of this, or I don't have the right context. And I apologize, we should have done this when we were talking, but we didn't have our slides. And why don't you just give them a little bit of the data that you share with me so that I can put it into context for us?
Sure. And so, you know, we know that in medicine we have seen burnout and depression and even suicidal ideation. The studies go back over 20 years because we've seen this happen, but with the pandemic hitting, we've seen it so much more. And that's the reason why this was so vital. And so when we look at even self-care, the studies showing self-care in residents and students, it's less than 30% that actually do this. Either
Put a
because
pin in that. Oprah moment, aha moment, okay? This is what Oprah would call tweetable. Here's the deal. What she's saying is this, is that for those of you who are studying to be doctors or in the healthcare profession, or those of you who actually are, less than 30% of you are practicing good self-care. Now, how we define that, we could debate that. But some basic things like sleep. Now, listen, I was in law school. I understand when you're in medical school, it's a lot worse. I get it. And you're dealing with, because sleep is not something you get in residencies, et cetera. I understand. However, if you don't practice that self-care, what happens? What do we do?
Well, the interesting thing is, right, we're about discovering, and all the research shows us that students that practice self-care have better quality of life and do better in school, and yet they're still not doing it. And so part of our journey was to understand why they were not doing it, and that's what hopefully our Office of Institutional Wellness is trying to do, is be able to offer things, because time is part of the problem, right? None of us have time, and so I'm all about creating a habit of wellness, habit stacking, if you're familiar with that. If you already have a habit, then stack another habit that's wellness related to it. But even with physicians, early career physicians, we're seeing that less than 40% even have primary care providers. And what kind of example are we giving to our patients, our students, our residents, if we're not taking care of ourselves? And so we see that we really want to try and instill better wellness practices and self-care that are sustainable so the students can matriculate and be successful, and then be successful physicians and researchers and physical therapists and whatever it is we're matriculating through.
Thank you. Here's the bottom line. We know better, so we have to do better. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, even right now as I sit here, there are doctors in this room. I see you. You got your stuff on. You probably just come out of surgery. You're about to go into surgery. You're busy. And I want you to understand that I get it. And the reason that I can talk to you like this is from a place of empathy and compassion is when I was a young lawyer and it was my partner year, I'm in one of the world's biggest law firms and I'm engaged to the wrong guy and I'm at the wrong job and I'm doing all the wrong things because I'm checking boxes. You hear me? I'm checking boxes. I'm doing what everybody's told me I'm supposed to do. And we do that, and we want to do well at our professions, and we want to succeed. But I never forget, my law firm was on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., right down from the White House, and I started having chest pains. And I'm 30-something years old. I'm in excellent shape. Everything's good, but my chest is hurting. And I walk across the street to George Washington University Hospital, and my doctor's there, and she comes in, and they run all these tests, and they make sure I'm not having a heart attack, and they're like, you're fine. What's really wrong? And when Nancy asked me that, I started to cry, and I'm not a crier. Most of you aren't either because we're tough. You know, we're busy, we're doing stuff. We got it all going on. And then when we started to have this conversation, it wasn't my heart at all. It was I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't doing what made me happy. I wasn't walking in my purpose. And I had to make a hard decision. Do I go on and become a partner at this big law firm? And do I check the box? Yeah, I'll make a whole lot of money. Boy, am I going to make a lot of money. But boy, if I'm looking at these other partners, they're not happy. Their marriages are falling apart. They drink too much. They're doing other things they shouldn't do. And the lawyers who are dispensing advice, the lawyers who are supposed to be helping people, what were we doing? We're living raggedy lives. Some of you doctors and healthcare providers here are doing the same thing. I'm not talking at you. I'm talking from a place of knowing. I'm a recovering lawyer, as I like to say. So, what I want to talk to you about, and to say the data is telling us a story that she talked about in brief. And that story is the story of us. It's the story of we're all here for a brief moment, folks. And we want to do good work, and we want to take care of people. But if you don't take care of you first, physician, heal thyself. You've heard that, right? Some of you are nodding your heads. Yeah, I hit you with that. Heal yourself first. Then you can take care of others second. So here's the thing. 3 questions that I really want you to consider. If you hear nothing else I say today, 3 questions. What do I want? What do you want? And doctors, you get to have a life too, beyond surgery, beyond what you do, beyond taking, what do you want? The next question is, what do you need? And that really gets to the heart of what Dr. Morgan talked about. The need part is the part we don't deal with because we don't think we have time because we're busy. We're human doings and not human beings, and we end up neglecting the most important thing, which is us. Because you can't be a good mom and a good wife or a good dad or a good husband or a good daughter, son, caretaker, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief if you're not taking care of you first. Everybody knows the saying, if mama's not happy, what? Nobody's happy, right? The energy in our homes, the energy at work. You ever have a supervisor that you don't like? You ever work for somebody that's not a nice person? And when they walk in the room, everybody kind of starts scattering? You know how you look at your phone when a certain person calls and you send it to voicemail? All of us is energy. And if you're not asking yourself these questions often, It's a check-in. It's a self-check. When I go to the doctor, what does the doctor ask me? Well, what are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Are you exercising? There's a list of questions that we ask for a reason because you're trying to get information in order to make an assessment. You have to do that with you too. Memorize those questions. Know those questions. Ask yourself those questions a lot. And that third one, how are you feeling? How am I feeling? There's two components to that, folks. From the medical, physical part, how are you doing with your body? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you exercising? Do you sleep? Do you eat good food or do you eat McDonald's a lot? Because you're busy. Are you eating a candy bar? Is that what you got for dinner? Right? And then that other part is, how am I feeling emotionally? Because again, you're in a profession where you see trauma, where you see a lot of blood and loss of life, and you see people wounded and people in all kind of stressful environments, and you're trying to manage that and heal that and cure that, and you carry that, as Dr. Pierre said at the beginning. This stuff lasts long beyond just when you leave work every day. If you leave work, most of us don't leave work thanks to our devices, right? Put the damn device down. You know, it's interesting. I was at a conference in Arianna Huffington. You all know who she is. And she's the founder of something called Thrive. Look it up. And she partnered with the Fortune 100 that I mentioned, the Fortune 80, to sign this pledge on wellness. And Arianna Huffington says they're literally inventing, they haven't rolled this out yet, but you'll hear about it soon. Scientists have tested, they've created an iPhone bed, I'm not joking, that has a blanket, literally everything. And they're encouraging kids to put their phone to bed so that the kids put the phone to bed and they understand if the phone has to sleep, I have to sleep. Think about how far gone we are that we have to create beds for phones. Just think about this for a moment. And some of us are going to need those bed phones too, apparently, right? You know, you wake up in the morning and, you know, instead of finding a warm body next to you, find a phone next to you. That's a bad situation, right? So seriously, I'm talking to you grown-up. We're grown-ups. We're not children here. Let's have real talk. But Arianna Huffington talks about why she started Thrive, which is all about sleep. And she talks about when she sold Huffington Post, she made $500 million on that sale when she sold it to AOL, right? And she talked about, I got all the money in the world, I got everything going. My marriage is falling apart, I got drama, I don't sleep. And she literally fell asleep, this is a true story, at her desk. And when she fell asleep from exhaustion, she fell, busted her face up. She busted herself up pretty bad. I mean, just imagine falling into that kind of just hurting yourself. And she said she was in the hospital getting stitches and evaluating, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm rich. I don't go anywhere. I'm rich. I work all the time. I haven't been on a vacation. Stuff isn't right. And that's when she started Thrive, because she said, I had to take a long, hard look at my life and what I had been through and the stuff I hadn't dealt with and the stuff I was just carrying and pretending it wasn't there. Listen, you guys are the front line. We cannot afford, the good folks in Louisiana and Shreveport, the good folks in America cannot afford for our healthcare providers not to be well. It is about you, but it's not about you. Because if you aren't well, the rest of us don't have a shot. We need you to be bedside manners. Some folks need to work on those bedside manners. They're bad. You just don't hand somebody a tough diagnosis or something. And you got to be a human being, folks. We got to get back to some empathy and some compassion. And I know that the people in this room practice that, but we can all use a reminder. So here's the thing, and I said this at the outset, Dr. Pierre said it, Dr. Moore said, we're living in uncertain times. Literally, all of us, every time you turn on the TV, there's more violence. You can't go to a grocery store. Your kids can't go to school. You can't go to a mall. You can't go to church. This isn't the world I grew up in as a kid. As a Gen Xer, I never had to practice a drill for an active shooter. None of us did. My parents' generation were under death for a nuclear attack. Different world we live in. None of us ever thought about going to the grocery store or Walmart and maybe being shot at. That's real, and we're all dealing with it. These are uncertain, scary times, and that means the people in this room cannot be uncertain about your mental health and wellness. It has to be a priority. You have to take care of yourself. Some of you don't even know what self is. You don't even know what that means anymore. You lost self a long time ago. Time to check back in with you. I think I've addressed this, talking about self-care beyond the surface. I like to use this analogy. You know, when you go back to Titanic, what sunk Titanic? It was not the tip of the iceberg that they all saw sticking out. It was what was beneath that they couldn't see. It was what was underneath, submerged. The part nobody saw, that sunk Titanic. It ripped the side, it ripped the rivets, and down the unsinkable Titanic went. Everybody in this room is like Titanic at some point. If you don't do the work on you, that stuff that you don't talk about, that stuff that you're carrying, that stuff that you think you're Superman or woman and you can fix all by yourself. My nanny used to say, country girl from South Carolina, running day and a catching day. There's a running day and a catching day. And what she meant was you can run and run and run, but sooner or later, it's going to catch you. And you cannot run from you. You cannot run from you. All right. So why am I talking to you about the life-changing power of self-care? I think we've established that because it's no longer a concept, guys. It's a reality. It's a fact. We have to do things different because we're failing. We're not happy. This generation is disappointing in many ways. Again, it's the social media, and I hate to blame it on that, but I think we all know that the devices and the social media have really changed the way we treat other people, the way we handle relationships. Things that you should never say on text, you do. Things that you would never say to a person's face, you do. Or you send a reply to all email or whatever it is. I call it thumb thugging, right? We hide. We're little thumb thugs. We say things. We beat up on people because we can hide. That's why I'm talking to you about this, because it matters, because we're all taking a beating and we're all tired and we all don't like it. We think we're connected. We are now more disconnected than we have ever been. Ever been. We're not connected. We just got devices. Again, we've talked about this. We all feel it. But again, this group, you're different. You're special because you provide care of the physical body first. But then you deal with what happens after that, after a leg has been amputated, after somebody has open heart surgery. Whatever people are dealing with, you got to be there for what happens after that too. It's like putting a person back together. So you guys are unique. So I really want to stress to you that although the pandemic has exacerbated this, as Dr. Morgan said, this has been going on for about 20 years. When we look at the data, there's been a decline in how people take care of themselves in this profession. And again, you guys are unique. You are special. Because like I said, you put people back together again. You help people be well. So let's talk about self-care, what it is and what it isn't. Self-care by definition is simply this: taking care of you. Period, full stop. The next thing that you need to know, and this is another one if you don't hear anything else that I say that's important, is that self-care is not being selfish. We've been sold this bill of goods a lie, frankly, that if you take care of you, if you want some time for you, if you stop and you say, I need help, you're being selfish. You've literally had people in your family tell you that. You know, the people that like to take from you, and the friends that like to take from you, and the colleagues that like to, you're the big giver, and then you're exhausted, and then when you say, I don't want to do that anymore, I need something from you, everybody's looking at you like, well, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with you. You're a human being, not a human doing. Self-care means putting you first. Now, some of you are bristling at the thought, God forbid, that you put yourself first. But let's remember what the stewardess says to us every time we get on an airplane. What does she tell you? Tell me. And why does she say that? Because if you lose consciousness and you have little kids, if you lose consciousness and you have an elderly parent with you, or how are you going to help them? It's a very simple concept of you taking care of you, because once you're good, you got everybody else. You can help somebody else. You can do good for other people. So keep that in mind. You matter. We talked about this. We all know what's happening, but I thought this was a good Google Trends stat here that they've seen the number of searches go up since 2015 in the last 7 years, doubled. People are starting to try to find out, well, how do I take care of me? And it's because we all feel exhausted and tired. How many people are tired all the time? Just exhausted. You feel like that's almost the whole room. And I'm not just talking about a physical tired. I'm talking about that, what's for me? What's next? What do I have to look forward to? It matters. I call this decluttering. You know how you ever watch that show Hoarders? You know, a lot of people, some of you in this room are hoarders emotionally. You know that, right? You walk around, you're carrying stuff, you're not talking about stuff. You don't even know what an emotional, relational, you don't even know what that is. You just cut off a long time. You just do. And you can't live life that way. It's time to declutter. Time to start unpacking stuff, folks. Life is short. And if COVID taught us anything, for me, the big takeaway is life is short. If you live to be 100, I have a 92-year-old grandmother, and she still drinks margaritas and plays slacks. She's awesome. But she drives that little buggy around like a crazy woman. But, she looks great. She's lived a long life. I think she's going to outlive all of us. And the thing, though, is, even if you live to be 100, Queen Elizabeth, who's another person who's just living forever, and God bless her, but all of us is going to leave here. And if you live to be 100, compared to forever, that's not a long time. And all of us knows it's rare for you to get to be 100. So when you hit 50, you start going, well, I guess I better figure some stuff out now. And it's a blessing to get to be 50. It's a blessing to live to be 75. It's a blessing. But we are in a time when we have to do some clearing. All right, so what's emotional IQ? Anybody want to tell me, Dr. Morgan, what's emotional IQ? Holler at me. You got it.
It's the ability to be self-aware, to relate to others, to understand yourself, it encompasses a lot of different things, but it's not the same as IQ, that's for sure. And I love what you said in your book, that you can always teach skills, but you can't teach EQ. No. And so that's so important.
Emotional intelligence is exactly what she said, and why it matters, again, to this group, because your profession is unique. A person who's a construction site manager is dealing with the building of structures as the architect has given him or her the plans. They still have to have EIQ, but again, you're dealing with, you literally touch people. You feel energy, you are energy. You're dealing with the whole body of a whole human being. And so understanding how people perceive you, how you perceive you, what is that bedside manner? How are you treating people? How do you treat yourself? Who on your team has this great skill set? Who on your team has another skill set? And how do you put everybody together to let people be their best and to shine? That's what good EIQ is. And again, because of our devices, we've stopped talking, we've stopped listening, we've stopped dealing with people on an emotional level because it's easy now to turn them off, literally, or ghost them. The young people love that foolishness. I just won't respond at all, ever. They'll get the message. My youngest niece tells me, they'll get the message. I'm like, wow, we got to work on you. So 7 life lessons I learned taking care of everyone with me. So I'm going to give you 7 lessons that I thought would be applicable to you. So first and foremost, reframe your thoughts about self-care. We talked about this. Stop thinking that self-care is selfish. It is not. And embrace the word no. No is a complete sentence. Period. Stop. I said no. I can't do it. I'd love to help you, but I don't have any time right now. You guys are grimacing like, ooh, saying no? Say no. People say no to you. People will tell you what they can't do, and they don't feel bad about it. Why should you? Say no, be respectful, but set boundaries. Reframing your thoughts about emotional self-care and wellness is, I am going to make sure that I honor myself first. I'm certainly going to honor other people, but you have to make a conscious decision that self-care doesn't mean something that you should be guilty about or ashamed of. Mothers, hear this one, because you're the worst at this. No is a complete sentence. You can say no, and it's going to be okay. Expectations. This is a big one. This is the source of most of our conflict as human beings. So I feel some kind of way about something and I need something, but I haven't told the other people in my life what I need or how I feel, and I expect them to know it and meet my needs and figure it out. People nodding and laughing. People are not mind readers, folks. And managing expectations first of you, and you. What do I want for me? What do I need? How do I feel? When you answer what you want and need and how you feel, docs, providers, nurses here, then you can better communicate with other people what you need. You know, the young people, again, they're cynical. You see it on the social media memes and all the things they put out. Well, just don't have expectations in life. Then people can't hurt you. That's not a way to live. Of course you're supposed to have expectations. You just have to communicate them. And people have to agree to them. It's a reciprocity. It's a mutuality. Manage your expectations for you and of others. It's everything. Next, mind your manners, they matter. Now you're saying, what does minding my manners have to do with self-care? A lot. Because basic respect, basic good morning, how are you, thank you, I appreciate you, we've lost those words apparently in our popular vernacular. They're gone. And they shouldn't be. They matter. One of the things you guys do really good down here in Louisiana is yes, ma'am, no, sir, good. I mean, I notice it's a big difference from Virginia. I mean, and we're supposed to be in the South too. I think I got to remind us. You know, in Northern Virginia, which is more D.C. suburbs, it's very transient. You have a lot of people in and out from all over. We've kind of lost a little bit of that genteelness and that just the basic how we treat others, how we engage them. You guys are good at that. I've seen it in the stores down here at the gas station. People are really nice that way. But are you practicing this at work? Are you practicing this with your team? How you treat other people matters a lot. How you treat yourself matters a lot. Manners matter. They open doors. Young people, hear me on this. Writing a thank you note, yes, an old-fashioned hand card that says thank you on it with a nice note with a stamp on it will open doors for you. Great story that I have to share here. This is relevant because you'll recognize this person. When I was a young counsel on the Hill, I was on C-SPAN. I was all 28 years old. It's the first time I was on C-SPAN. And a certain Supreme Court justice saw me on C-SPAN and called my boss, who at the time was Barbara Comstock, who became a congresswoman in Virginia, and said, Barbara, I want Sophia to come to my office. I thought she was terrific. Bring her to my office, and I would like to meet her and have tea with her. Well, that justice was Justice Clarence Thomas. Now, as you can imagine, I was right out of law school at the time, a few years out, and I certainly remember those confirmation hearings, and I certainly remember Anita Hill, and I'm thinking, what in the hell does he want to see me for? I'm not going to his, are you kidding me? No. So, at any rate, Barbara said, well, do you want me to tell him no? And I said, I got to call my mother about this. So I called my mom, and I said, you know, Justice Thomas saw me on C-SPAN and wants to see me. And I was like, I'm not going to his office. And she says, yeah, you are. Now, again, I'm 28 years old, and she's telling me, yeah, you're going. And she's like, he's a Supreme Court justice. She said, I know what's on your mind. But that man is not inviting you there to cause any problems. Go sit down. Be respectful. You never know what could happen. Okay, so I'm not happy about this, but I've been told I'm going. So I go, and it turns out the 15-minute coffee turns out to be an hour conversation. Marquis, I see you. You're watching your time. I got you. And this is an important story. So we have great talk. It goes well. I'm very surprised by how nice he is and just, you know, was being very respectful, says, I'm going to eat my Wheaties because you're going to do something phenomenal someday, and I want to be around to see it. Okay, thank you. Long story short, a few years later, his mother passes away. I read about it in the paper. I drop a note, a card, a handwritten note. So sorry your mother passed. Sorry for your loss. You know, Sophia, Nelson, and family. Fast forward again, another probably 5 years or so, it's time for me to be sworn into the bar of the United States Supreme Court, which is a real honor. Not every lawyer gets it. But of course, I didn't get my paperwork in on time, and I was busy doing stuff. And when it came time to be sworn in, I could still be admitted, but I couldn't go to the in-person ceremony. So, of course, my mother wasn't happy about this, as you can imagine, because she wanted to go to the ceremony. So I called Justice Thomas's office, and I'm thinking, well, maybe, and I call, and his secretary tells him, he calls me back, says, you're in, bring mom, you're good. What's the moral of this story? The moral of the story is that I didn't want to go to that meeting a long time before because I had a perception, I had a notion about this person who turned out to be a perfectly fine person in his interaction with me and helpful, but that note that I dropped him, when his mother died, he told me meant a lot to him because he said people who were senators and governors and people who he knew didn't drop a note when his mother passed away. But I did. And so when I called and said I needed something, young people, that door was open for me. And it was done because I showed kindness and respect. So manners matter. Build an amazing life circle. I don't think I need to really dig into this other than to say, as my grandmother used to say, know your front row. Know the people sitting in your life's theater. Know the people who are around you. Are they really for you? Do you have people that celebrate you, or you around a bunch of backbiting, negative, nillies, haters? As Bishop Jakes likes to say, I never had a hater doing better than me. Think about that. The people that are trying to tear you down are not the people up here. Those are the people you want. You want people that pull you higher. And don't surround yourself with yes people either. Because yes men will lead you to the water and they'll let you drown. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. See, I'm in Louisiana. I can quote scripture. I like that. Who you trust, who you align yourself with, a principle of leadership. John Maxwell teaches this. The old Dale Carnegie courses teach this. The 5 people in your life that are the closest to you, that you spend the most time with and talk to the most, determine the trajectory of your life. Now, I know some of you have to go, so we're coming up on the end here. This one's important in our culture. We talked about this a little bit earlier with the way that we communicate now. We call it cancel culture. You got canceled. This just happened recently to the First Lady of the United States of America. She made an offhand comment. She was at a breakfast for Hispanic Americans, and she said something about breakfast tacos. That did not go over well. She definitely should not have said that. But the social media blowback was extreme, and it made news, of course, because she's the First Lady. Now, I've had the privilege of knowing Joe Biden for a very long time, and I can say to you, and I think we would all agree, regardless of what our political persuasion is, that she is not what they called her, which was they called her a racist. That's what we do to each other now. When you say something I don't like, when you say something that offends me, when you say something that hurts my feelings, I want to call you out. I want to put you on blast. I want you removed from your job. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to look at you. That's not okay, folks. We should absolutely call people out when they mess up, when they do things that are wrong, inappropriate, racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever those things are that are wrong, particularly in our workplaces. But once we call them out, let's call them in. God bless America. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. The point is, we are a very diverse, heterogeneous society. This is why America's the great envy of the world, at least I hope we still are. It's because we're the only place on earth that does what we do. Look at this room, the diversity of this room, and we all have to come together. We're not a homogeneous society, so we're not going to like everything everybody says. We're not going to be happy with everybody's choices, but that's America. And if we can call people out, but call them in, what do? We give people room to grow. We give people room to do better, to be better, to live among us all better. It doesn't have to be my way or your way. It has to be a collective way that we treat each other. This one's big. Get out of your own way. You know, most of the drama in our lives is caused by us. It's real. It's not the other people. It's not. It's not them. It's us. It's I didn't make the right choice. Listen, we teach people how to treat us. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? If you take abuse, if you allow people to disrespect you, you're the problem. Yes, they definitely have a problem, but you keep allowing it. And you keep thinking that somehow if you're just nice enough, they're going to change. They won't. So again, getting out of your own way is what happens when you know you better and you understand what you need. This should be the last slide coming up next. Now, I thought y'all would like this. This is life lesson. I think it's, I don't know which one it is, but it's do no harm, take no. You can fill in the last two little words there. The little, you know what it is, right? Marky, can I say bad words or can't say bad words? Okay, I can't say bad words. All right. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. So, listen, as I said at the outset, I'm the daughter of a labor and delivery nurse. So I understand, and I grew up with seeing someone who delivered babies with doctors, and sometimes the doctor was asleep and the nurses were delivering the baby, and there was stress and distress, and sometimes she'd come home sad because a baby didn't make it or a mother didn't make it. And you guys are, again, different. Doctors, I have nothing but, I think you're awesome. You're kind of superhuman beings. You're superheroes because you literally put people back together. But we've all heard stories about doctors. Again, I like saying that as a lawyer because, boy, do we not have room to talk. The reality is doctors, nurses, healthcare providers are the lifeblood of America, of this state, of this city. And I hope that you're hearing me when I say it, because I say that with deep respect, and I say that with a desire for you to understand that if that's true, I want you to take no crap from anybody, as you don't. Doctors don't take crap from people, by the way. We know this. But you often give it. So the key is to do no harm. Do no harm first. I will do another person no harm, but I'm also not going to take a lot of crap from people either. And I think that's something that we need to really practice because, again, it's a form of self-care. It's saying no. It's putting up a boundary. It's saying, I'm not going to do you any harm, but I'm not going to let you do me any either. And I think that at the end of the day, be nice to the nurses, docs. Be nice to your teams. And remember that we are all on the same side. We're all in this together. And I thank you for having me here today. And I hope some of this has helped you, blessed you, given you some tools. Thank you so much.
So we are about to allow Sophia to go out to do the book signing. And if you have any specific questions, you have an opportunity to talk to her while she's out there for the book signing. So Felicia, would you come and take Sophia out there? Thank you so much. And thank you, Sophia, for joining us. I appreciate you. And I have to say, I called my sorority sister and she came, and we're just grateful that she's here in Shreveport.